A young woman named Sarah decided to spend her vacation in the countryside. After a long search on the internet, she came across a beautiful old farmhouse that was for rent. The farmhouse stood alone in the middle of a dark forest, and in the photographs, it looked like an ideal place to rest. Without hesitation, she booked a stay for a whole week. When she arrived at the place, she was mesmerized by the beauty of the farmhouse. The ancient building stood in the middle of the vast grounds, surrounded only by forests and meadows. The landlord handed her the keys and warned her not to attempt to leave the farm after dark, as the woods could be dangerous at night. The first night, Sarah was struck by the silence. The silence was so deep it made her feel uncomfortable. She fell asleep with the window open so she could listen to the sounds of nature. By morning, however, she was horrified. From the window, she heard sounds that sounded like softly whispering voices. She poked her head out, but there was no one around. In the following days, the situation seemed to improve. Sarah began walking around the area, exploring the woods and enjoying the beauty of the countryside. But every night, the low, whispering voices returned, and when she stuck her head out, she never saw anything. Although she tried to convince herself that it was just the sounds of the forest, she began to have the uneasy feeling that she was not alone at the farm. On the third night, she decided to stay up and wait. As darkness fell and the forest receded into darkness, the voices began to be heard again. This time, she decided to go outside and find out what was going on. As she walked out into the yard, she saw a group of figures standing in the middle of the meadow. The heads of the figures were bowed, and they appeared to be performing something on the ground. As she got closer, she caught a glimpse of what was happening in the meadow. The figures were standing around a deep pit into which they were burying something. When she looked into the pit, she froze in horror. They were human bones. Sarah turned to the figures in horror and screamed. At that moment, they all turned to her and let out a terrifying, hissing sound from the silence. She ran back to the farmhouse, turned on all the lights, and locked herself in the bedroom. The voices haunted her until the morning when they finally disappeared. In the morning, she decided to leave the farm immediately. She left everything she had and ran.